now ready to start with my layers, my background, my middle ground, and my foreground. I'm going to start with the background, of course, which for me is the sky. This beautiful sunset with clouds and sunbursts. It's just beautiful. I'm going to start with a really light wash with mostly water and just a touch of blue. I want to make sure I build from light to dark, so I'm just barely adding any paint to my paintbrush. Going in and making sure that I leave gaps of white, because as you can see in the picture, we have clouds. We have bursts of sunshine, and it's not just one solid color like it was with our Tuscany painting. So I'm making sure to leave little areas of white of negative space to achieve that effect. Now I'm going in and adding more paint to where the bottoms of my clouds are. It's important when you're working with a big area like this and you're using the wet on wet method that you work quickly. By using the tip of my paintbrush right here, I'm pulling the paint upward to create these sunshine streaks or sunbursts. When you're painting the sky, try not to overthink it. I like to use this as an opportunity to just really let my wrist be loose and not too rigid. Now I'm going in with a yellowy orange near the horizon line where the sun is setting. I've mixed a little bit of lemon yellow deep with my cadmium orange and watered it down quite a bit, leaving little bits of white here and there. And then I will start blending it into the blue area of the sky. Tapping in just a little bit here and there to make it look like an actual sunset. I love this orange and yellow mixed together. It's just looking so beautiful. I wish I was in France right now. And as you're painting, especially if it's something like this that's very loose and fluid and you don't want to overthink it, I like to let my mind wander to what I would be doing if I was in France right now. It's fun to let your mind wander when you're preoccupied with something like painting a sky. Just adding a little more of a darker color to where the bottoms of my clouds are. And as you can see, as it dries, it's spreading out, it's drying a lot lighter, and it's looking really nice and abstract and just how I wanted it. I'm mixing a little buff titanium with my lemon yellow deep to go in and add a little bit more detail to where the sun is setting. I don't want too much detail because I'm going for a loose look, but this is perfect and gives me just the right amount of definition. Now that my background has dried, I'm going to go in and start the middle ground. For me, the next layer is the mountains. I'm going in with a slate or charcoal color, a little bit of indigo mixed with Payne's gray to paint this mountain scene. I'm following the lines that I've sketched ahead of time, which makes it really easy to fill in the area. Just remember how simple it is when you're building layers like this. It's not that complicated. I'm just going in and putting a simple wash down. Just below the mountain line is a field with trees and greenery, and it has this lovely yellow tone. So that's what I'm going in with very carefully up to the edge of the mountains. I don't want to pull down that darker paint color, so I'm being really careful as I paint up to the edge of the mountain, putting down this nice light color, which might look a little funny right now, but as we go in with more layers and with more detail, it will look so much better, I promise. Just be patient. That's the hard part about painting landscapes, is you have to be patient. I'm going to add some green to this field, just like we did with the Tuscan landscape. When we did the grassy middle ground, we put a light green down and then we went back and added darker green to where the shadows were. That's exactly what I'm doing right now. I'm going back in and adding a few more layers to make it look more lifelike. Try not to fill the whole space with one solid color. Leave little bits of negative space like we did in the sky. The last section in the middle ground is this line of trees that separates the field and the lavender field. I'm just going in and putting a quick layer of dark green. And the last layer is our foreground, which for me is my lavender field. I'm planning on putting down a quick purple wash in this area, especially in the top of the foreground. And as you move closer to the bottom of the page, I'm going to give more detail. I'm just spreading out this purple lavender color across the page, leaving little gaps of white here and there. Right now it looks just like a purple blob and really silly, but as we add more color and darker purple, and as we go in with gouache later, we will add more definition and it'll look much more like a lavender field as opposed to a purple blob. As I move my way down closer to the edge of the page, I'm leaving even more white space because as you can see in the photo, there's a clump of lavender right at the front. And above that, you can see the greenery from the line of lavender right above it. I want there to be some variation in the purple. So some of it is more of a pink lavender color, some of it is a deeper purple. I'm just gonna sprinkle it in here and there. When I go back in later with my gouache to add detail, I'll be able to add even more variation. It's time to paint these lovely little lavender stalks right at the front. So I'm using a more up and down motion to mimic the way the lavender is growing in the front. Just like we talked with layers, the closer you get, the more detail you're going to see. Obviously, we're going to have much more detail in the front or foreground of our painting than we are in the distant background like with the mountains. And now we're ready to add our details to finish off our beautiful watercolor landscape.